The orbital platform gleamed like a small moon above the ancient world of Sanctuary Prime. Inside its vast conference hall, representatives from 47 different species gathered to witness history. Ambassador Ji-Won Park stood at the central podium, her simple black suit a stark contrast to the elaborate garments and biological forms surrounding her. She held a data tablet in her hands, but she didn't look at it. She had memorized every word. 15 years ago, humanity sent its first message into the void. Ji-Won began, her voice steady and clear. We didn't know if anyone would answer. We didn't know if we were alone. When your ships appeared in our skies, we were terrified. Not because you were different, but because we finally understood how small we truly were. She paused, letting the translation devices catch up in dozens of languages. Some species heard her words as musical tones. Others received them as scent patterns or svetovy impulse flashing across screens. But the meaning reached everyone. Today, we signed the Terran Trade Concordat. This document represents more than commerce. It represents trust. You are trusting us, the newcomers, the children of the galaxy, to trade honestly and work fairly among civilizations that have existed for thousands of years. We will honor that trust. The hall erupted in the varied sounds of approval. The insectoid creche clicked their mandibles in rhythm. The gaseous Velorn shifted colors from blue to warm gold. Even the stoic Dramek, who rarely showed emotion, tapped their claws against their benches in acknowledgement. Captain Minho Kang watched from the observation deck above, his arms crossed over his uniform. The ECS Horizon, his ship, was docked at the platform's military wing. He had been Ji-Won's unofficial guardian for 3 years now, and he had learned to read her better than most. Today she seemed genuinely happy. She's good at this, said Dr. Yuna Lee, standing beside him. The xenobiologist had known Ji-Won since their university days back on Earth. She actually believes every word she says. That's what makes her dangerous, Minho replied with a slight smile. She makes everyone else believe it too. Down in the hall, Ji-Won finished her speech and pressed her thumb to the digital document. One by one, the alien representatives did the same, each in their own way. Some used tentacles, others projected light. One simply thought at the device until it registered approval. The Concordat was now law. The celebration lasted for hours. Ji-Won moved through the crowds, speaking with delegates, remembering names and customs, never showing fatigue even though Minho knew she had been awake for 20 hours preparing for this moment. She laughed with the Velorn about their philosophical poetry. She discussed agricultural techniques with the creche. She even managed to get the Dramek to tell her about their world's crystal formations, which they rarely shared with outsiders, but not everyone was celebrating. In a private chamber far from the main hall, 3 Vrexian commanders met in secret. Their species resembled Earth's large reptiles, but they stood upright on powerful legs, and their eyes held cold intelligence. High Commander Tajin, the largest of them, slammed his clawed fist against the metal table. 15 years, he hissed. 15 years, and these humans have taken everything we worked centuries to build. They ended the war between Helios and Nirvan. Those were our client states. Our conflicts to manage, our profits to collect. The Council seems to love them, another commander said bitterly. Their ambassador speaks of peace and cooperation, and everyone forgets that humans are predators. Their teeth are flat, but their history is written in blood. Taijin's eyes narrowed. The Council has short memories. Perhaps they need to be reminded that words mean nothing without strength to back them, and that newcomers should know their place. The next morning, Ji-Won sat in her quarters reviewing reports. The Concordat was signed, but there was always more work. Trade routes to establish, disputes to mediate, relationships to maintain. Her assistant, a young diplomat named Hyun Kim, brought her morning coffee and a worried expression. Ambassador, you received another message, Hyun said quietly. Another one? Ji-Won took the datapad and read the short text. It was the 3rd message this week, all saying similar things. Know your place, human. The galaxy has old laws. New species should listen, not lead. Ji-Won deleted the message. Probably just someone who lost money when we negotiated the Helios peace treaty. Don't worry about it. But Ambassador, these threats are just words, Ji-Won interrupted gently. And I've been doing this for 3 years. Every major agreement brings angry messages. The Council has strict laws about diplomat safety. No one would dare actually harm a representative. That would mean war, and no species wants that. Hyun didn't look convinced, but he nodded and left her to work. 2 weeks later, Ji-won received a formal invitation. The neutral station Kepler's Gate requested her presence to mediate a resource dispute between two minor colonies. It was routine work, the kind she had done dozens of times before. Commander Daehan Choi, head of her security team, reviewed the mission parameters and found nothing concerning. Light security only, he confirmed. Kepler's Gate has strict protocols. No military vessels, no heavy weapons. It's considered sacred neutral ground. Then we follow their rules, Ji-won said. Pack for a 3-day stay. Minho stopped by her quarters the night before departure. He brought a bottle of real Earth wine, a rare luxury in space. A gift for the hero of the Concordat, he said with a mock formal bow. Ji-won laughed and poured them each a glass. I'm just doing my job, Minho. You're changing the galaxy, he corrected. Earth went from nobody to a major player in 15 years. That's because of you. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, looking out the viewport at the stars. Ji-won thought about how far humanity had come. From a single planet to a voice in galactic affairs, from isolation to friendship with dozens of alien species. It felt like the beginning of something wonderful. Do you ever worry? Minho asked suddenly. That we're moving too fast? Making enemies? Every day, Ji-won admitted. But what's the alternative? Hide on Earth and hope the galaxy ignores us? We're here now. We have to make the best of it. We have to show them that humans can be trusted, that we're worth knowing. And if someone doesn't want to learn that lesson, Ji-won smiled, then we teach them anyway. With patience, with kindness, with diplomacy. It's what we do. The next morning, Ji-won's shuttle departed for Kepler's Gate. Yuna watched it leave from the observation deck, feeling an unexplained sense of dread. She told herself it was nothing, just nerves. Ji-won had done this 100 times before. The shuttle disappeared into slipspace, carrying Ambassador Ji-won Park toward her final mission. Behind her, she left a galaxy that respected humanity. Ahead of her waited enemies who would shatter that peace forever. Kepler's Gate hung in the darkness between 3 star systems, a massive station built by the Council centuries ago as neutral territory. Ships from every species docked here without fear. Wars stopped at its borders. Blood feuds were forgotten within its walls, or at least that was how it was supposed to work. Commander Daehan Choi didn't like the place. 20 years of military service had taught him to trust his instincts, and his instincts were screaming that something felt wrong. But he couldn't point to anything specific. The station was exactly as advertised. Clean, organized, heavily monitored by Council peacekeepers. His small security team of 6 had passed through every checkpoint without incident. You're being paranoid, Ji-won told him, as they walked toward the mediation chamber. This is the safest place in the galaxy. Safe for everyone except the person I'm supposed to protect, Daehan muttered. He had argued for bringing more security, but the station's protocols were absolute. Light security only, no exceptions. Even for ambassadors. The mediation chamber was a circular room with a high ceiling. Delegates from 2 minor colonies sat on opposite sides, both looking angry and tired. A council observer, an elderly Dramek named Kelvin, stood at the center. He bowed respectfully when Ji-won entered. Ambassador Park, thank you for coming. This dispute has lasted 3 months. Your reputation for fairness precedes you. Ji-won smiled and took her seat. Yeon sat beside her, ready to take notes. Daehan positioned his team around the room's perimeter, following standard protocol. Everything seemed normal. The mediation began. Both colonies claimed rights to an asteroid field rich in rare minerals. Both had treaties they insisted proved ownership. Both refused to compromise. It was tedious work, but Ji-won was patient. She listened to every argument, asked clarifying questions, looked for common ground. 2 hours into the session, Daehan noticed the staff behaving strangely. Station workers had been moving in and out of the room, bringing water and documents as needed. But now several new workers had appeared and they were standing too still, watching too carefully. His hand moved toward his sidearm. That's when everything went wrong. The new workers moved with military precision. They drew weapons that should never have made it through station security. Energy pistols, illegal neural disruptors, blades coated with alien poisons. Daehan's training took over instantly. He fired at the nearest attacker, dropping him. His team reacted, forming a protective circle around Ji-won. But there were too many attackers, and they had the advantage of surprise. One of Daehan's guards fell, then another. The assassins wore armor under their worker uniforms. They had planned this carefully. "Get the ambassador out," Dahan shouted, firing twice more. He hit one attacker in the chest, but his weapon merely sparked off hidden armor plating. These weren't ordinary station workers. They were professional killers. Jiwan stood frozen for a moment, unable to process what was happening. Council observer Kelvin tried to activate the emergency alarm, but an assassin shot him. The old Dramak collapsed, his crystal-like skin cracking. The colony delegates tried to run for the exits, but the doors had been sealed. Hyun grabbed Jiwon's arm and pulled her toward the back of the room. "Ambassador, we have to move." But there was nowhere to go. The assassins had blocked every exit. Dahan and his remaining guards fought desperately, but they were outgunned and outnumbered. One by one, the guards fell. Dahan took a blast to the shoulder and went down, but he kept firing from the ground, buying seconds, buying time for nothing. Jiwan understood then that she was going to die. She stood straight, facing her killers with dignity. "Why?" she asked. "What could possibly be worth this?" The lead assassin was Vrexian. His species was obvious from his reptilian features. He aimed his weapon at her heart and spoke in perfect human English. "You changed too much, too fast. The galaxy has an order. Humans forgot their place. There will be consequences," Jiwan said quietly. The council does nothing," the Vrexian interrupted. 46 ambassadors have died in council history. No one has ever faced real justice. Your death will be investigated, blamed on terrorists, and forgotten. Your people will accept compensation and move on. That's how this works. Jiwan thought of Earth, of humanity reaching for the stars, of all the progress they had made. She thought of Yuna and Minho and all the people who believed in her work. She thought of Hyun trembling beside her, too young to die in a place like this. "You're wrong," she said. "You don't know humans at all." The Vrexian fired. Jiwan Park fell, and the golden age of humanity's diplomacy fell with her. The assassins killed everyone else in the room. The colony delegates, the council observer. Hyun tried to fight with nothing but his bare hands, and they killed him too. Dahan, bleeding and broken, watched from the floor as they murdered everyone. Then they turned their weapons on him and everything went dark. But one camera survived. One hidden security feed overlooked in the chaos. It recorded everything. The assassins in their Vrexian armor, the methodical execution of witnesses, the leader speaking orders in the Vrexian military dialect. Every damning second was saved to an encrypted data core. The assassins planted evidence before they left. Fake manifests blaming a terrorist cell, forged communications suggesting the colony delegates had hired killers. They wiped most of the security system. They thought they had covered everything. Then they escaped in a ship that was supposed to be registered to a smuggler group, but was actually a Vrexian military vessel with its identification code scrambled. They thought they were being careful. They weren't careful enough. The bodies were discovered 2 hours later when the sealed chamber failed to respond to station communications. The council emergency team found the massacre and immediately locked down the station. News spread fast. Ambassador Jiwan Park was dead, murdered on neutral ground. Humanity's voice in the galaxy had been silenced. On Earth, Premier Seojun Oh received the news in the middle of a cabinet meeting. His face went white. He dismissed everyone except Fleet Admiral Jiho Nam and Intelligence Director Sora Han. The three of them sat in silence for a long moment. "Tell me we know who did this," Seojun finally said. Sora activated a hologram. The recovered security footage played. They watched Jiwon die. They watched Hyun die. They watched everyone die. Sora froze the image on the Vrexian leader's face. "We know," she said quietly. "High Commander Taejin, Vrexian Military Intelligence. This was a government-sanctioned assassination." "The council?" Jiho asked. "Already issuing statements," Sora replied bitterly. "Thoughts and prayers. Calls for investigation. Offers of compensation. How much?" Seojun's voice was cold. 2 million credits. Seojun laughed, a harsh sound without humor. "They murdered our ambassador and want to pay us the price of a nice house." He stood and walked to the window, looking out at Earth below. "What's the council's track record on ambassador assassinations?" 46 previous cases, Sora said. 2 resulted in any justice. Both times the killers were already dead. Seojun turned back to face them. His expression was calm, but his eyes held something dangerous. "Contact all our diplomatic staff. Every human in council space. Bring them home. Close the embassies. Recall the trade vessels. All of them. Sir, that will send a message that we're withdrawing from galactic affairs entirely, Jiho warned. Good, Seojin said. Let them think we're grieving and retreating. Let them think we're accepting this. Let them think humans are soft. He looked at Jiho. How long would it take to mobilize the full fleet? Jiho understood immediately. 3 months. Maybe 2 if we skip some safety protocols. Skip them. Mobilize everything. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. I want production facilities at maximum capacity. The colonies, too. All of them. The council will notice that level of activity, Sora said. I don't care, Seojin replied. They killed Ji-won Park. They killed 17 people on neutral ground. They think there will be no consequences. He smiled, and it was not a kind smile. They're about to learn what happens when you murder a human ambassador. Earth mourned in a way the galaxy had never seen. Every city went dark for one night. Every ship in human space turned off its exterior lights. For 12 hours, humanity stood in darkness, remembering Ambassador Ji-won Park. Billions watched her funeral in Seoul, where her family had lived for 6 generations. Her parents were too old to travel to space, so space came to them. Dr. Yuna Lee stood at the funeral, delivering a speech she could barely get through. Her voice broke 3 times. She remembered their university days, their late-night debates about humanity's place in the cosmos. Ji-won's absolute faith that understanding and diplomacy could solve anything. She remembered the last time they had coffee together just 2 weeks ago. Ji-won had been so happy, so proud of the Concordat. Captain Min-ho Kang attended in his dress uniform, standing at attention for the entire ceremony. He had failed to protect her. It didn't matter that he was light years away when she died. He had promised himself he would keep her safe, and he had failed. The guilt was a physical weight. The galaxy sent messages of condolence. The council issued a lengthy statement expressing shock and sadness. They promised a thorough investigation. They offered 2 million credits in compensation, which worked out to about $2,000 per person killed. Many species sent flowers, a human custom they had learned. The flowers arrived in cargo ships and filled entire warehouses, but they did not send justice. In a secure bunker beneath the capital, Earth's leadership gathered for a meeting that would change everything. Premier Seojun sat at the head of the table, flanked by Fleet Admiral Jiho Nam and Intelligence Director Sora Han. Around the table sat the leaders of humanity's 100 colony worlds, appearing through hologram projections. The investigation is a joke, Sora said, pulling up files. The council interviewed station staff, looked at the planted evidence, and concluded it was probably a terrorist group. They're recommending we accept compensation and move on. Standard procedure, apparently. How standard? Asked the governor of Titan Colony. 47 ambassadors murdered in council history, Sora replied. This is number 47. In 2 cases, justice happened because the killers were already dead from other causes. Every other time, the council investigated, found nothing, and paid money. The families accepted because that's how it works in galactic politics. You don't start wars over diplomats. Show them the real evidence, Seojin ordered. Sora activated the hologram. The recovered security footage played. Everyone watched in silence as Ji-won Park died. As Hyun Kim died. As Dehan Choi and his team were executed. The Vrexian assassins were clearly visible. Their leader's face was captured in perfect detail. High Commander Taejin, Sora said. Vrexian military intelligence. We've tracked the escape ship back to a Vrexian military base. We've intercepted communications confirming government knowledge. This was ordered from the highest levels of their command structure. Why? Someone asked. We ended their war, Jiho explained. When Ji-won brokered peace between Helios and Nirvan, the Vrexians lost 2 client states. They lost influence, territory, and profit. Killing her was meant to be a message. Humans rise too fast, push too hard. They wanted to put us back in our place. The Mars governor leaned forward. What does the council say about this evidence? They haven't seen it, Sora said. We haven't shared it. Why not? Seojun answered. Because the council won't do anything with it. They'll study it, debate it, form committees. In 5 years, they might issue sanctions, maybe trade restrictions. They won't risk war with the Vrexians over 1 human life, or 17 lives. They've proven that 46 times before. So what do we do? Asked the Europa governor. Accept the money? Let them think humans are weak? No, Seojin said quietly. We teach them what happens when you murder a human. Yuna Lee was brought into the meeting late after the governors had seen the evidence. She looked exhausted, her eyes red from crying. Seojin offered her a chair. Dr. Lee, you were Ambassador Park's closest friend. We need to know something. What would she want us to do? Yuna laughed bitterly. Jiwon would want peace. She'd want dialogue. She'd want us to be better than them. She paused. But Jiwon is dead because she believed in those things. Because she thought the Council's laws meant something. We found something in her personal effects, Sora said gently. A message recorded 3 days before her death. We think you should hear it. The hologram shifted. Jiwon appeared, sitting in her quarters, speaking into a camera. She looked tired but peaceful. If you're watching this, something went wrong, Jiwon's recording said. I've made a lot of enemies making peace, and I know some of them would rather see me dead. So I'm recording this just in case. She smiled sadly. Don't let them make you monsters. Don't let my death turn humanity into something ugly. But also don't let them make you victims. The galaxy respects strength. I tried to show them we had other kinds of strength, wisdom, and patience and fairness. If that didn't work, if they killed me anyway, then maybe the galaxy needs a different lesson. The recording ended. The room was silent. She knew, Yuna whispered. She knew they might kill her. Yes, Seojin said. And she went anyway because she believed in what she was doing. Now we have to decide what we believe in. Fleet Admiral Jiho pulled up a tactical display. We have 117 ships in active service. Another 300 in various stages of construction. If we mobilize completely, if we call up reserves and activate the colony fleets, we could field 800 combat vessels in 2 months. The Vrexians have over 2,000 ships, someone objected. The Vrexians have ships designed for council-style warfare, Jiho corrected. Energy shields, plasma weapons, battles that follow rules and protocols. We design ships to kill. He brought up schematics. No shields, just armor. Kinetic weapons that can't be deflected. Nuclear missiles that don't care about energy barriers. AI-guided swarms that overwhelm point defense. We fight dirty because we learn to fight each other, and humans are very good at killing humans. This is madness, the Titan governor said. We're talking about war, real war. The Council will never support it. The Council didn't support our existence at all until we proved we were useful, Seojin replied. Now they take our trade, our resources, our diplomacy. They took Jiwon Park's work for 15 years. And when someone murdered her, they offered us money and told us to move on. He stood. I'm not asking for Council permission. I'm asking if humanity wants justice. The vote was unanimous. Over the next 2 months, Earth and its colonies transformed. Every shipyard went to maximum production. Retired military personnel were called back to service. Factories that made civilian goods switched to making weapons. The 100 colony worlds from Mars to distant Proxima all contributed ships and soldiers. The Terran Defense Force became the Terran Retribution Fleet. Captain Minho Kang was promoted to Rear Admiral and given command of the Vanguard forces. When Jiho offered him the position, Minho asked only one question. Will we make them pay? Every single one, Jiho promised. The galaxy noticed Earth's military buildup but misunderstood it. They thought humans were afraid, fortifying their territory. Some council members expressed concern about aggressive posturing, but took no action. The Vrexians laughed at human panic, confident that their superior numbers and technology made them untouchable. They did not understand what was coming. In the final week before deployment, Seojun recorded a message to be sent to Vrexian space at the moment the fleet arrived. He kept it simple. High Commander Taejin, you murdered Ambassador Jiwon Park. You killed 16 others to hide your crime. You believed there would be no consequences because there never have been before. You were wrong. This is not the Council's justice. This is not a committee hearing or a trade sanction. This is Terra's answer. You murdered peace. Now face war. The Terran Retribution Fleet assembled at the edge of human space. 847 warships, the largest human fleet ever created. Soldiers, pilots, and crew from 100 worlds all united in single purpose. They didn't carry banners or flags. They carried the names of the dead painted on their hulls. Yuna Lee visited the flagship before departure. She found Minho on the bridge staring at the tactical displays. Jiwon wouldn't want this, Yuna said. I know, Minho replied, but she's dead. And someone has to speak for the dead. Will you stop after Taejin, or will you burn everything? Minho looked at her. We'll burn enough that no one ever murders another human diplomat. Whatever that takes. The fleet jumped to slipspace, leaving human territory behind. Destination, Vrexian space. Purpose, vengeance. Method, overwhelming violence. The galaxy was about to learn that humans were not just clever politicians and peaceful traders. They were also predators who remembered every wrong, calculated every response, and when pushed far enough, fought with absolute commitment. The Vrexians had killed one ambassador. They were about to understand what that life was worth. The Vrexian border patrol detected the human fleet 30 seconds before it arrived. Sensors screamed warnings about massive slipspace distortions. 847 contacts emerging from faster-than-light travel all at once. The patrol commander thought his equipment was malfunctioning. No species moved entire fleets like that. It was too dangerous, too coordinated, too aggressive. Then the Terran Retribution fleet materialized at the edge of Vrexian space, and the patrol commander realized his sensors were working perfectly. He immediately sent an emergency transmission to the military command, then scrambled his 12 patrol ships to intercept. It was a pointless gesture. He knew it was pointless. But he was a soldier, and soldiers followed orders even when those orders were suicide. High Commander Tajin received the warning in his command center on the primary Vrexian military world. He reviewed the tactical data with amusement. 800 human ships facing the Vrexian Empire's 2,000-vessel defense fleet. The humans had to know they were outnumbered. This was either desperation or stupidity. Deploy the 3rd and 7th fleets to the border, he ordered. 600 ships should be more than enough to send these mammals running back to their little blue world. Record everything. I want the galaxy to see what happens when primitives challenge real military power. Admiral Jiho Nam stood on the bridge of the ECS Retribution, the fleet's massive flagship. Around him, holographic displays showed every ship in the fleet, every target in Vrexian space, every possible response scenario. They had wargamed this battle for 2 months. They knew exactly what the Vrexians would do because the Vrexians always did the same thing. They relied on superior numbers and technology. They followed standard council combat doctrine. They fought wars the civilized way. Humans didn't fight civilized wars. All ships. Weapons free. Jiho ordered. Rules of engagement are simple. Anything military is a target. Nothing else. We're not here to slaughter civilians. We're here to break their military so completely that they never threaten us again. Rear Admiral Minho Kang commanded the Vanguard, 30 of the fastest and most heavily armed ships in the fleet. His vessel, the ECS Horizon, was named after his old ship. Jiwan's name was painted on the hull in letters 3 meters tall. He looked at it every morning. All Vanguard ships follow me in, Minho transmitted. Let's show them what humans do to murderers. The first battle began at the border. The Vrexian patrol ships opened fire with plasma cannons, standard council weapons designed to overwhelm energy shields. The beams struck human ships and dissipated against thick armor plating. They're not using shields, a Vrexian gunner reported in confusion. Then shoot them until the armor breaks, his commander shouted. But the human ships were already firing back. Not with plasma or energy weapons, but with solid metal projectiles moving at impossible speeds. Kinetic kill vehicles, humanity called them. Telephone pole-sized chunks of tungsten accelerated by magnetic rails until they hit with the force of nuclear bombs. The first Vrexian patrol ship exploded. Then the second. Then all 12 destroyed in less than 4 minutes. The humans didn't slow down. They pushed deeper into Vrexian space. Tajin watched the border engagement with growing concern. 12 ships lost in minutes. The humans fought unlike anything he had seen before. No shields meant they took damage, but their armor held. No energy weapons meant his ship's defensive systems were useless. And they moved with coordinated precision, like a single organism. Deploy the full defense fleet, he ordered. All ships. I want them crushed now. The Vrexian defense fleet was impressive. 2,000 ships ranging from small destroyers to massive dreadnoughts. They formed a battle line 300 kilometers wide, a standard council formation designed to maximize overlapping fire. It had worked for centuries against every enemy they had ever faced. It didn't work against humans. The Terran fleet split into multiple groups, each targeting a different section of the Vrexian line. Minho's Vanguard hit first, breaking through the center with overwhelming firepower. Behind them came missile ships launching thousands of warheads that twisted and dodged through space, too many for point defense to stop. The missiles were nuclear, another weapon the Council considered barbaric. They didn't care about shields. They just exploded with enough force to crack ships in half. Colonel Yunji Bayek watched from her assault carrier as the space battle raged. She commanded the 3rd Marine Division, 15,000 soldiers waiting for their turn. Naval battles were impressive, but Marines won wars by taking ground. Or in this case, taking stations and planets. How long until we can drop? She asked her tactical officer. Admiral Kang is clearing a path now. 20 minutes. Yunji checked her gear one more time. She had fought in the Mars Rebellion, the Europa Crisis, and 3 different corporate wars. She had seen combat on asteroids, in space stations, and in underground bunkers. But she had never fought aliens before. She wondered if they would be harder to kill than humans. Probably not. Everything died if you shot it enough. The space battle lasted 6 hours. The Vrexians had numbers and experience. They had better energy weapons and more advanced shields. They had been fighting wars for 500 years. But humans had been fighting wars for 5,000 years. They had been killing each other with progressively better weapons since they learned to sharpen stones. They had built entire economies around warfare. They had written books about strategy, philosophy, and the art of violence. Every major human advancement in technology had been weaponized. They were very, very good at destruction. When the battle ended, the Vrexian defense fleet was destroyed. Of 2,000 ships, fewer than 300 survived, and those only because they ran. Human losses were 104 ships damaged, 37 destroyed. Casualty ratio, 20 Vrexian ships for every human one. Teijin stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Impossible. Humans were supposed to be weak, diplomatic, soft. They talked about peace and cooperation. They didn't fight like this. They weren't supposed to fight like this. Sir, the human fleet is advancing toward the inner systems, his tactical officer reported, voice shaking. They're not stopping. They have to stop, Teijin said. This was a battle, not a war. They proved their point. Now they'll negotiate, but the humans didn't stop. They pushed deeper into Vrexian territory, targeting military installations, weapons factories, shipyards. They didn't attack civilian population centers. They didn't orbital bombard cities. They weren't monsters. But they systematically destroyed every military asset they could find. Colonel Yunji led her Marines in orbital drops on 3 worlds. They hit military command centers, communication hubs, and ammunition depots. The Vrexian ground forces fought hard, but they had never faced anything like human Marines. Soldiers who wore powered armor and carried weapons that fired depleted uranium rounds. Soldiers who called down precision strikes from orbit. Soldiers who had trained in 100 different types of combat because human warfare was diverse and brutal. One Vrexian commander surrendered after watching a single human squad destroy an entire battalion. What are you? He asked Yunji in disbelief. We're the species that killed our own ambassadors for 1,000 years before we even reached space, Yunji replied. You really shouldn't have killed one of ours. Admiral Jiho's fleet reached the Vrexian homeworld after 3 weeks of fighting. They didn't bombard it. They surrounded it. Then Jiho sent a message to the surface. High Commander Teijin, you will surrender yourself and every person involved in the assassination of Ambassador Jiwan Park. You will do this within 12 hours, or we will start destroying your orbital infrastructure. We won't harm civilians, but we will leave your world cut off from the rest of the galaxy until you comply. You murdered one human. We're willing to sit here for years if necessary. Teijin had run out of options. His fleet was destroyed. His military infrastructure was crippled. The Council had sent messages asking for peace talks, but they hadn't sent help. No one was coming to save the Vrexian Empire. He surrendered after 6 hours. The humans brought him and 43 other military leaders aboard the ECS Retribution. They were not mistreated. They were given food, water, and medical care. They were treated according to human laws regarding prisoners of war. But they were definitely prisoners. Minho Kang watched as they were led to the brig. He felt nothing. No satisfaction, no triumph, just cold purpose. These people had killed Jiwon. They had killed Hyun. They had killed Daehan and his team. They had murdered 17 people and thought there would be no consequences. Take them to Earth, Jiho ordered. They'll face trial there. The Terran Retribution fleet had entered Vrexian space with 847 ships. They left with 768 ships and 43 prisoners. They had fought a war, won it decisively, and were going home. The galaxy watched in shock. The Council sent urgent messages demanding explanations. Other species watched the battle recordings and realized everything they thought they knew about humans was wrong. Premier Seojun received Jiho's report from Earth. The war was over. Human casualties: 4,312 dead, 8,000 wounded. Phyrexian casualties: estimated 200,000 military personnel plus destroyed infrastructure. The trial began 3 months after the war ended. It was held on Earth in the International Criminal Court in The Hague, a building that had seen centuries of human justice. High Commander Taijin and 43 other Phyrexian officials sat in the defendant's box, watching as humanity prepared to judge them. The prosecution was led by a former war crimes investigator named Prosecutor Jaemin Cho. He had spent his entire career prosecuting humans who committed atrocities. Now he would prosecute aliens using the same laws. The trial was broadcast to every world in the galaxy. Everyone would see what happened when you murdered a human ambassador. Jaemin began by showing the security footage. Every species in the galaxy watched Jiwon Park die. They watched the methodical execution of witnesses. They watched Phyrexian soldiers in clear view of cameras, making no attempt to hide their identity because they believed there would be no consequences. This was not a random act of violence, Jaemin explained. This was a planned government-sanctioned assassination. The defendants believed they were above consequences because, historically, they were correct. Ambassador murders in Council space go unpunished. But this is not Council space. This is Earth, and we have different standards. The defense argued that the trial was illegal. Earth had no jurisdiction over Phyrexian citizens. The Council should handle this matter according to galactic law. It was a reasonable argument by Council standards. The judge, an elderly woman named Chief Justice Miran Choi, listened patiently before responding. The Council had its chance for justice. They investigated for 3 weeks and concluded they couldn't determine who was responsible, despite overwhelming evidence. They offered monetary compensation and suggested we move on, so we are moving on. Without them, the trial lasted 4 weeks. Evidence was presented in exhaustive detail. Communications between Taijin and his subordinates ordering the assassination, financial records showing payments to the assassins, ship logs proving Phyrexian military vessels transported the killers. Every piece of evidence that Sorahan's intelligence service had gathered was made public. The galaxy watched as human justice unfolded. Many species found it brutal. Humans asked aggressive questions, challenged witnesses, showed graphic evidence without warning. There was no polite diplomatic language, no careful phrasing. Just facts and accountability. Dr. Yuna Lee testified for 3 hours. She described Jiwon as her closest friend, her moral compass, the person she most admired. She cried on the stand. The judges allowed her to take breaks. The prosecution was gentle with her. The defense tried to suggest Jiwon's diplomatic work had made her a legitimate target. Yuna's response was cutting. If doing your job peacefully makes you a legitimate target, then every one of you is legitimate. Every diplomat, every traitor, everyone who ever tried to build something instead of destroying it. You're saying peace is weakness. Ambassador Park died believing peace was strength. Your people proved her wrong. We're proving you wrong. The verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all counts. 44 individuals convicted of conspiracy to commit murder, and violations of diplomatic immunity. The sentences were immediate. Taijin and the operational commanders received execution. The planning staff received life imprisonment. Human justice was swift. Many species protested the executions. The Council issued statements about barbarism and the sanctity of life. Premier Seojun responded with a single question. Where were these concerns when our ambassador was murdered? The executions were carried out professionally and without cruelty, but they were broadcast across the galaxy. Everyone saw High Commander Taijin face human justice. He showed no remorse even at the end. His last words were defiant. You're proving you're monsters. Jaemin, standing nearby, replied softly, No, we're proving we're serious. After the trial, Earth announced the formation of the Terran Compact. It was not a request to join existing galactic institutions. It was the creation of something new. Premier Seojun outlined its principles in an address to the galaxy. For 15 years, humanity tried to work within the Council's systems. We followed your rules, respected your traditions, and believed your promises of protection. Ambassador Jiwon Park died because those promises were worthless. We will not make that mistake again. The Terran Compact had simple rules. Any species could join. Members would receive absolute protection from human military forces. In exchange, they would agree to one non-negotiable law. The murder of a diplomat was an act of war. War would be answered with total commitment. We're not offering peace through goodwill, Seojin continued. We're offering peace through certainty. Attack one of us, you attack all of us. And we've shown what that means. The response shocked everyone. Within a week, 17 species applied for membership. Within a month, 43. These were not major powers. They were smaller civilizations that had watched the Council fail to protect them for centuries. They looked at humanity's response to Jiwan's murder and saw something they had never seen before: actual consequences. The Galactic Council fractured. Half its members recognized that the old system was broken. The other half insisted that humanity had violated every principle of civilized behavior. The arguments lasted months. In the end, the Council lost most of its authority. Species stopped looking to them for protection or justice. They looked to Earth instead. Hyun Kim, who had died at Kepler's Gate, had a younger sister named Minji. She had been studying medicine when her brother was murdered. After the war, she changed her focus to diplomacy. She applied to the Terran Diplomatic Corps and graduated top of her class. When Earth needed a new ambassador to the galactic community, they chose her. Minji stood in the same council chamber where Jiwan had once delivered speeches about cooperation. But the atmosphere was completely different now. Species that had ignored human diplomats now listened carefully. No one interrupted. No one sent threatening messages. Everyone remembered what happened to the last people who murdered a human diplomat. My name is Minji Kim, she began. My brother Hyun died at Kepler's Gate, murdered alongside Ambassador Jiwan Park. I'm not going to talk about forgiveness or moving past tragedy. I'm going to talk about reality. She activated a hologram showing human fleet positions. The Terran military had not demobilized after the war. 800 ships remained on active deployment. Shipyards continued production. Every human colony maintained a defense force. This is the new reality, Minji continued. Humanity tried peace through understanding. Ambassador Park gave 15 years of her life to that approach. She was murdered for it, so now we offer a different kind of peace, the peace of absolute certainty. We will not attack you. We will not invade your worlds. We will not interfere in your internal affairs. But if you harm a human, if you harm anyone under our protection, we will respond with overwhelming force, every time, without exception. A council representative, a Dramak named Kelvin II, named after the observer who died at Kepler's Gate, asked the question everyone was thinking. Are you threatening us? No, Minji replied. A threat is conditional. This is a promise. We're not asking for your approval or permission. We're informing you how human protection works now. Don't attack our people and we'll never have a problem. It's simple. Yuna Lee watched the speech from Earth. She had returned to her research studying alien biology, trying to rebuild the life she had before Jiwan's death. She thought about her friend often, about the person Jiwan had been and the legacy she left behind. Jiwan had wanted humanity to be known for wisdom and patience. Instead, they were known for vengeance and military power. Was that better? Was that worse? Yuna didn't know. But she knew one thing. No one would murder another human diplomat. Not after what happened to the Vrexians. The Vrexian Empire never recovered its former power. 70% of their military capacity destroyed, their leadership executed or imprisoned, their territory under human oversight during Reconstruction. They would rebuild eventually, but they would rebuild knowing that humanity was watching, knowing that a second mistake would be their last. Min Ho Kang retired from active military service 2 years after the war. He had served humanity for 30 years and he was tired. He moved to a small colony world where he could see the stars clearly at night. Sometimes he thought about Jiwan, about the conversations they had about her faith in diplomacy. I'm sorry, he said once, standing on his porch, looking up at the galaxy. I know you wanted us to be better than this. But he wasn't sure they could have been better. The galaxy didn't respect wisdom and patience. It respected strength and resolve. Humanity had both now. They were feared and respected in equal measure. Ships carrying the Terran Compact symbol traveled safely through space that had been dangerous for centuries. No one attacked them. No one threatened their crews. Everyone remembered the Vrexian War. On Earth, in the city of Seoul, a memorial garden was created for Jiwon Park. It covered 3 hectares and contained flowers from 100 worlds. People came from across human space to visit it, to remember the ambassador who changed everything by dying. Her statue stood at the center, a simple figure in a simple suit holding a data tablet. The inscription at the base was from her final message: "If I fall, don't let them make you monsters, but never let them make you victims."